Joining us now, front of the show, Jay Morrison, BengalsTalk.com, hanging out with us. Jay, good morning. Happy Friday. We appreciate you giving us some time today.
Hey, Justin. I just want to say I loved your Texans pick. I don't know that I would have the guts to do it, but I think that is going to be a real game. That Houston defensive line is for real, and the Chiefs have issues on the offensive line, and I think all that rest from resting their starters in the week off. I love the Texans as a halftime line bet. I don't know I could pick them to win the game, but I think it's good. The Chiefs never cover. It's going to be a close game, and I think it was a really can I say ballsy on this show? I think that was a great. I don't know. Going for it. I really like the ambition there.
Can he say that on this show? He clearly didn't tune into yesterday's show, which is probably a good thing. But Jay Morrison with us. Jay, right now, the big question mark look, there's a lot of questions that the Cincinnati Bengals front office and organization has to answer heading into this offseason. But I think the one that's most realistic to get answered, as soon as possible is the defensive coordinator search. Some reports come out yesterday that obviously Patrick Graham, Raiders defensive coordinator, Al Golden with obviously Notre Dame. That seems to be those two names are the favorites as of right now. On your front, what are you hearing regarding the Bengals' ongoing defensive coordinator search?
Yeah, it seems like it is going to be one of those two. I've always felt all along it was going to be Al Golden. There's just that familiarity there, and not just the familiarity, but you go back and you look at, when they brought him in as a linebackers coach in 2020, this franchise was a barren wasteland for linebackers, and he really got Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt up to a really, really good level. And I know Jermaine Pratt's everybody's favorite punching bag after this season. And, that happens. Guys get older, they get slower. I think we've probably seen the last of him with the team. I think he's going to be a cap cut. But I just think that the track record is there. Zach is so big on relationships and coaching styles. Yeah, you could go get a Dennis Allen or a Robert Saleh or a guy like that, but it's not just about the X's and O's. It's about the fit. And Al Golden just seems like he fits with this coaching staff, and he's got NFL coaching experience. And I think Bengal fans are going to lose their minds on Tuesday morning if they hire Al Golden after the Buckeyes put up 40 on his defense. But I do think that he is going to be the guy that they go with.
One question I threw out and that we were kind of discussing earlier in the show, obviously you move on from Lou Anarumo with the mindset of we got to improve the defense. And then you see the popularity of Lou Anarumo out on the free agent market, if you will, for him, all the teams that are lining up for his services. And you look at the two names that are left, do you feel like whoever the Bengals hire is an improvement from Lou Anarumo?
That's tough to say. I mean, Lou is a really good coach. I think it was just one of those things where it got a little stale, and that happens in this league. Guys aren't coordinators for 6 years in a row with a team. That just rarely happens. Spags in Kansas City is just a different animal. Kansas City altogether is a different animal. He's over there winning Super Bowl rings. And he did the head coaching thing. It didn't work out. I think he's comfortable in that role. I just think, if you're a DC in this league, you're either getting promoted to a head coach or you're getting fired. And that's just kind of the way the position goes. And so, it's hard to say that Lou lost it. I think he's going to get a defensive coordinator job somewhere. I keep saying that I hope it for his sake, because I really like Lou a lot as a person. He was great to us as the media, just a great human being. And with Aaron Glenn being such a hot prospect as the Lions defensive coordinator, as a head coach, if he moves on, Lou's worked with Dan Campbell before. They have a relationship, and I think that would be a great landing spot for him. So it could end up being a win-win. I mean, getting let go, getting fired by the Bengals could be a win for Lou Anarumo, and you bring in a guy like Al Golden or whoever they bring in. It's going to take some work. That you've got to build this thing from the ground up, because there's not a lot there on defense. But I do think that it can work out well for both sides.
Hey, Jay, it's good to have a Hamiltonian on the show.
That's right.
Hamiltonian. It's funny you brought up Al Golden. If we hire him after giving up 45 points, we're not going to like it. Can you imagine being the team that hires Lou Anarumo? You're hiring the DC from the team that famously didn't make the postseason because of their defense. So there's going to be some press conference. All right, outside of the defensive coordinator, Where do you think the biggest splash the defense can make this offseason can be? Is it a premier edge rusher? Is it someone in the secondary? Where do you think the biggest splash can be on the defensive side?
Yeah, I don't know that they're going to make a splash in free agency. I think you're going to see them do what they've done in the past and go for these mid-tier guys that they believe have upside. And, especially so much, the first domino that has to fall is T. What are they going to do with him? And, in the Jamar contract. And those things have to get settled first before you can even start thinking about going out and making a big splash in free agency on defense. Maybe they do. Maybe I'm wrong, but it doesn't seem like it's their MO. And if they are planning on re-signing T, which right now I think is a 50-50 proposition, then that it's going to be hard to do that in free agency. But I do think that you're going to see them continue, unless if T walks, then you can almost guarantee they're going to draft a receiver in the first or second round. But barring that, it's going to be a defensive heavy draft. And that's another thing that you're looking for in this defense coordinator is a guy that can come in and not just draw up schemes, but develop talent. And I think that's what ultimately cost Lou, was all these young guys, all these draft picks they've invested in these guys. And some of them regressed and some of them just never got to where they met their draft position, Miles Murphy being the prime example there. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think you'll see them. They have to find some defensive line help. You got to find more pass rush there. But I think they like what they have in the secondary. And I just don't know that you're going to make a splash. The linebacker position is kind of like what the running back was a few years ago, where it's just kind of, it seems like it's not a priority for a lot of teams. And I don't see them signing a big name there. So if they do go out and make a somewhat big signing in free agency, I think it's going to be somewhere along the defensive line and, not a run stopper, a pass rush specialist.
You said that they like what they have in the secondary. I think I share that. I think that the secondary, although they got cooked sometimes, it was because a lack of pass rush. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you in the talent that the Bengals have in the secondary?
Yeah, I should back up there because I think they like what they have in their corners. I think the safety room, room could, I don't know. Geno Stone could be a cap cut casualty. He came on toward the end of the year. That's that was the too little, too late thing for Lou. Maybe it was too little, too late for Geno, and they move on there. But again, safety is a position that the Bengals made it loud and clear a couple years ago when they didn't sign Jesse Bates. It's just not a position they value. So I do like Jordan Battle. I think he's going to have a good future in this league. But beyond that, you've got to find another starter there. Von Bell's not coming back. Geno probably isn't. Now, I shouldn't say probably, but I wouldn't be surprised if they move on from him. So yeah, that is an area. Safety is an area where they do need to upgrade. But I think they finally found something with Dax Hill. It took them all these years to find out his best spot. And I think DJ Turner was playing great. I loved what I saw from Josh Newton this year. Yeah, he got beat sometimes, but he's just got that demeanor about him. And for a 5th round pick, I think he outplayed his draft position. And you're going to have to look probably to replace Mike Hilton in the slot. But I think there's a good base there in the secondary, which sounds weird after the season they just had.
The only other question I got for you, Jay, is you saw a picture of you at the MAC championship cheering on the Rolling Bobbies of Athens High, and in the picture I saw you drinking. I think it was a Stella Artois.
It was.
As someone who went to OU, you're from Hamilton, I would have figured you would have been like a blue collar, like Miller High Life guy. It was interesting to see a Stella Artois in the hand.
That was a settle. The line was the shortest at that stand that had Stella.
Okay.
It actually all the beer lines were huge, but there was a Little Caesar stand selling pizza, but they had a fridge and they had Mick Ultra and Stella. That was the only 2 beers they had. So I said I went with the Stella. After that, I'm an IPA guy. I'm not really a blue collar PBR. I went and found some Bell's Two Hearted for the rest of the game. So it was funny. I can't remember the last time I had a Stella, and it's funny that I get captured on film holding one.
I've got one serious one, unserious one, real quick, Jay. The serious question, I saw you tweeted this out yesterday, and it was in response. It was a quote to one of your earlier tweets. It was, the 14th time in Bengals history they've lost their first 3 home games in the season. They've never rallied to have a winning record. To credit Zach Taylor, they did rally to have a winning record for the first time ever this year. And I do think, a lot of the fan base, myself included, will criticize Zach for those early starts, and I think it's rightfully so. But there is a ton of emphasis that should be put on the back half of the season where they shine. I don't know why they shine, but they shine so much more brightly in that back half. But going back to the front half, and I think Zach mentioned it in one of his last press conferences of the season, how much more emphasis are the Bengals and Zach Taylor going to place on winning early, starting out the season hot? Because it's been a problem with Zach since he's taken over this job.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely revisiting it, and I think that in the past we would have seen some changes as far as his approach to the preseason. I think we would have seen Joe Burrow and the starters play 2 years ago in the preseason had it not been for the calf injury. And this year it was just he just wasn't right with that wrist and early on. And it's hard anytime in football to blame injuries, but I think that is the number one reason for their slow starts is Joe Burrow has not really been healthy at the start of seasons. And they kind of have to work around that. And the game plan is limited, and Joe was limited in what he could do. I mean, his velocity was so far down when you look at those numbers in that New England game. He just wasn't trusting that wrist until week 4, week 5, and he started letting it rip, and they started playing better. I don't know. I don't think it's a question of the country club atmosphere that they have in OTAs and even in camp. I don't think it's so much that. I think players appreciate that and keeping bodies fresh so they can play well down the stretch. I think that's a big part of this. You know, you look at the counter argument, and Mike Tomlin beats down that team. They practice hard. They go hard every single time they're on the field, and look how they finish seasons. You know, so do you want it like that where you just go in the tank at the end of the season and there's no hope? Or, yeah, you want to start faster, but even if you don't start fast, you can recover. And, you know, this one was too much. 1-4, that was just, you're not coming back from that. And they almost did, but they didn't. So I think he is really going to take a look at how he structures things and his approach to the preseason. I think he's already looked at that. There's just circumstances that prevented it. And I do think you're going to see some changes as how they approach things in May. And then again, when they come back in July and in August for the training camp.
My final question, and it's very unserious, but coming into next season, which storyline do you think the national media is going to run with the hardest? Do you think it's going to be that the Bengals players still have to cross the street? Will it be Tee Higgins running up the little hill, or will it be perhaps that the reporters aren't able to take pictures of the players crossing the street? Which one do you think is going to take the biggest headline there?
Well, it's Bengals crossing the street for sure, because as soon as there's pictures or video of that, Pat McAfee runs with it, and then it just goes wild. And you know, it was I probably jumped the gun with my tweet earlier this year saying that the Bengals, the reason that they were not letting us shoot from that side of the street is because of the optics, and that wasn't what was going on. There was just some reporters kind of got a little too close and following Jamar Chase into practice once he came back from his hold in, and they were just trying to do away with that. It is funny. I mean, it's like, what do you want him to do? You want him to build a bridge? I mean, the practice field is across the street. Every team has a facility and practice fields. They don't all practice in their stadium. So how else are you going to get? You either build a tunnel or you build a bridge, and neither one of those makes sense. And they have multiple policemen out there. They have multiple Bengals security personnel that do a good job of blocking the street. Not just for the players. They'll stop traffic for the media when we cross the street. So it is appreciated.
.com, Sports Illustrated, awesome enough to give us some time. We appreciate that. Jay, last thing on the way out, I can't wait for when we have you on that first time. We don't have to talk about Tee Higgins, and it's nothing against Tee Higgins. I just feel like I thought we had put that chapter behind us after last season, but we might be asking a lot of the same questions. I didn't think there was any chance that would be a possibility of him coming, to be a part of this core moving forward. But the only reason I'm putting a little bit more stock back into it is because why do you think out of nowhere did Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase both start being vocal at the same time? Like, there has to be a reason for that, right? Like, do they know something that you and us and we don't? Like, why out of nowhere, outside of just talking about his importance, of course, why out of nowhere would those two just start really hammering home the urgency of finding a way to keep him moving forward? Do they know something that we don't?
Yeah, I mean, I think they do. You just look at T switching agents and getting rid of David Mulgeta, who has butted heads with the Bengals forever. He's Jesse Bates' agent. And now T is represented by Rocky Arsenault, who's Jamar's agent. It feels like there's a reason for that, and they're gonna try to work together and see how they can make both of those contracts fit with the team. And you read between the lines on some of the stuff that Joe said, it sounds like he's willing to restructure his contract and do what it takes. I mean, the argument goes both ways. When Tee Higgins is not on the field, this offense is totally different. And just look at the second half of that Pittsburgh game. They were humming in Pittsburgh in the season finale, and then T goes out and the offense falls apart. And the games when they didn't have Tee Higgins, the offense was not the same. Does that mean they need to sign Tee Higgins? Or does that mean they don't need to sign Tee Higgins because they can't rely on him to be there all the time? It's not a fluke. It's something that he's dealt with his entire career. He's probably going to continue to deal with as he gets older. There's going to be soft tissue issues. He's going to miss time, nothing major, nothing significant, but a couple games here and there. I don't know. I think you look at what Joe said, and he knows the power he has with this organization. And I think he and Jamar and T obviously want to stay together. And just look at what Zach did, where, sending those three out for the coin flip before the game in Dallas. And he had never done that before. And then he did it for the final 5 games. It was just kind of a very obvious picture of this is our core. These are our stars. We need to keep them together. And they're out there before the game doing the coin flip. And everybody sees it. I just don't know if the front office, they would like to keep T, but they would like to keep T at whatever price. They're not going to get in a bidding war. So if they don't get him signed before free agency hits, it's going to be hard to keep him. I still think they probably franchise tag him. It's coming up here in about a month. I think it's a month from tomorrow. February 18th is the first day they can put the franchise tag on a player. I wouldn't be surprised to see them do that and then continue to negotiate, unlike last year where they just put the franchise tag on him and said, that's it, you're playing on the tag.
All right, Jay Morrison, appreciate your time. Thank you for giving us some time here on a Friday heading into the weekend. Appreciate you. We'll talk soon. Thanks for your time again. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, good stuff. Off the bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. That was Jay Morrison with BengalsTalk.com. As we wrap up the show, any closing thoughts on anything he had to say throughout our conversation?
I thought it was a little, I guess not interesting, because I think I shared the same sentiment. You see all these people on Twitter, on X, the Everything app. Did I do that bit right?
You did. You nailed it.
Okay. I see everyone on there talking about the Bengals should go out and get Budda Baker. The Bengals should go out and get Max Crosby. All these big names. And I think Jay shared the sentiment that I have. That's probably not going to happen, right? There's not going to be any huge name salvation to this defensive team. It's going to be these mid-tier guys that we've gotten in years past. And it's what got the team to the Super Bowl. It's what got the team to the AFC Championship game, are these mid-tier names, not these big names, but these mid-tier names. And the Bengals are going to continue to operate under that manner. And like I said, not surprising. That's exactly how I thought. It was just maybe we can put to rest the big names, the huge names that they bring out.
Well, not to mention that you're also going to have to pay. I mean, you're going to have to pay Jamar Chase, and there's a chance that they pay Tee Higgins. So you talk about the money that the Reds had earlier on. Bengals coming into this season will have a lot of spending to do on the guys they've already got. So we'll see what happens in terms of free agency for the defense.
Yeah, and on top of that, the other big thing that I don't think we thought about to ask him, but Trey Hendrickson also probably wants a big extension too.
Might retire.
Yeah,
he might retire. I mean, this time he actually has some leverage. He's only got a year left on his deal. So, yeah, I mean, a lot to do for the Bengals. Lots to do.